Learning lines. How to do the most necessary thing for an actor. There are some actors who cannot learn any lines until they have blocked the play and can associate words with moves and motivation and so on. That is luxury rehearsal time. More often, actors are expected to turn up to a much shorter rehearsal period knowing their lines or being extremely familiar with them. In the case of screen work, of course, rehearsals are almost non-existent, and private study is essential. So, with no help from the director, you must do a lot of homework. There is no substitute for getting on with it. Start as soon as you get the script. Know the lines so thoroughly that you could change anything should the writer or director insist. Do not go along with the concept that it is impossible to unlearn something. A professional should be able to cope with these small matters. Learn your lines so well, in screen work particularly, that you could start in the middle of a scene, at any line in the scene, without being thrown, and be prepared to go back to a previous scene you thought was in the can and be word perfect all over again. So, how do you learn lines? Practice everything like mad, and do not leave anything to the inspiration of the moment. An old actor told us that saying all his lines out loud 3 times every day quickly put them into his failing memory. Put it on the tongue, he exhorted us. A good method is to start with the long speeches first, which means that when you memorize the whole part you will be glad to have these stepping stones under your belt. Look at the text for clues, noticing how short or long the sentences are. This will help you when you memorize, as you will know whether you are embarking on a long or a short thought. There might be some words you do not know the meaning of, or some pronunciations to sort out, and there can be some difficult words or phrases you need to get your tongue around. Learn the cues as part of your own lines. The last few words of another character's speech prepare you for your next line. Write out these last few words on a card, and write your next speech on the other side. You can then see the card and try to remember what is on the other side, or have a friend or partner hold up the card to you, where you can see the cue and they can see and prompt you in what you ought to say. There might be times when you have to cover for others' errors, if they cut an important sentence or phrase that you need to hear to make sense of the next thing you say. This is when a familiarity with their lines helps a great deal. This applies only to the theater, of course, because any error when filming can be corrected in a retake. When you say the words out loud, you might hear alliterations and assonances that the eye hasn't spotted. This helps you to learn the lines, as you now have connections between words and between thoughts. Get someone to hear your lines when you are familiar with them. Partners are good for this. If you can't remember a line, ask your partner to give you a hint rather than tell you the forgotten words. Word association is a very useful aide-memoire. Find a connection between a word in the cue line and what you say in response. A word that begins with the same letter, for example, or a word with a similar meaning. If nothing obvious occurs immediately, you can always fall back on repetition. Some actors find that writing out their lines in their own handwriting helps to get them into their brains. Others find that reading the part into a tape recorder, or getting someone else to do this, and playing it in the car during regular journeys, is a useful way to get better acquainted with their words. Highlighting your lines is very popular because you can see, at a glance, how much you are involved in each scene. Highlight all your moves and business as well, maybe in a color different from the lines you speak, making sure you have covered every bit of the script where you are involved, because it can bring an episodic screen drama into some form of logic. Rather than highlighting each word, some people simply put a mark by the name of their character at the top of each speech. Make a note of your moves or business with a pencil, because these can change quite often during rehearsal and you'll need to erase these at times. Do not be misled by taking the situation of the scene as a starting point and imagining how you would react in those circumstances. You might then find that the lines do not necessarily fit, and you will wonder why you cannot learn them easily. You will start blaming the play, the writer, and even your lack of technique, but chances are you have started from the wrong end. Take the character from the lines, and learning the lines will then be so much easier. Only when your lines are fully memorized can you have the true freedom to create and to act.